All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Kirsten Riley. I am the Executive Director of Naturally San Diego. We are the community of CPG and natural products within San Diego. We are part of a larger network called the Naturally Network, and there are 10 chapters all around the United States. All of our mission is really to support our local ecosystems of CPG and natural products, and we do that in a variety of ways. Obviously, many products are sold on Amazon. So today we're going to be focusing on all about Amazon and how you can grow your customer base and the loyalty pipeline. With us today, we have Tony Morales, who is VP at Luminize. Luminize is a wonderful supporter of Naturally San Diego. They are a full-service Amazon agency and product distribution company. They are a wealth of knowledge all about Amazon. I've been to their center. They have so many insights and everything. So you guys are all really gonna learn a lot here. We are recording, and so we'll post this to YouTube later. Tony, for the flow of this, I'm about to pass it over to Tony. He's gonna speak for 30 minutes or so. He has a presentation. And then we ask that you hold all of the questions until the end. If you want to, you can type your questions into the chat live time, but we will answer them all at the end. So with that, Tony, I will pass it over to you to kick it off.
Thank you, Kirsten, very, very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Tony Morales. I'm the Vice President of Brand Growth at Luminize. My job is to make sure that our clients are successful and that they're growing and that their businesses are thriving in the e-commerce marketplace. I'm a former Amazonian. I worked at Amazon for a number of years. I've worked with hundreds of brands, hundreds of multi-million-dollar brands in the CPG space, and really seen them grow significantly over the last decade, as Amazon has grown and as the space in general has grown. So hopefully today I'll be able to share with you, a handful of things that'll help you take advantage, of some of those economic tailwinds. So today we're going to talk about attracting repeat customers and moving them up the relationship ladder. What's really exciting about CPG, right, is it's different than selling, say electronics, right, where somebody, may only buy, one pair of Bluetooth headphones, right? Like when you're selling a consumer goods product, right, this is something that someone can come back to and repurchase again and again. And so customer loyalty and building those relationships is really important because you can essentially create a lifetime value, right, out of a customer. And that's what we're gonna get to today. Really quick, let me tell you a little bit about Luminize and essentially what we do. So our business was essentially founded, in the 70s. We had our formation was in, brick and mortar stores. In 2007, the team saw this migration to online, right, where we started selling, our products not just in brick and mortar, but also, on e-commerce. Now, a few years later, we began, not just doing it ourselves, our own products, but working, with global brands, specifically selling on Amazon. A few years after that, we started doing, services, and supporting, advertising and a handful of other services. And now today, we're a, full service Amazon accelerator. So we do all things Amazon for any brand that needs support. We've got done over 2.5 billion in managed revenue. We're a top five seller on Amazon. There's 4 million people who sell product on Amazon. So it's quite an accomplishment to be, where we're at today. We have 150 employees here in the US. We have over 80 partners, 100% positive feedback score on Amazon, and we have a 300,000 cubic foot warehouse here in San Diego. So last year, our customers had on average 47% growth. which is, it's really exciting. Most people are not getting a 47% raise every year. And so I'm really, really glad that we're able to do this, for the people we're working with. Now, getting into sort of the meat. So the way I like to start is with the concept of trust, right? I believe that trust is the currency of relationships, right? And we if we don't have trust, then we don't have a relationship. Things cannot work, whether it is a personal relationship, a business relationship, or a brand customer relationship, right? Nobody is going to buy your product or continue to buy your product if they don't trust you. I think trust is something that is earned in drop and lost in buckets, right? It can take a long, long time, to build trust over time. And then, you can have, a mistake and you kick that trust bucket over and all the water spills out. Um, I typically tell a story. I'm big brother in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. And I have a little brother named Ramon. And Ramon was skipping school, right? And he was getting upset because his mom took away his phone and she gave him a curfew. And she's like, "Oh, why is she hassling me? I went to school every day this week." And I was like, "Buddy, you can't just go to school for a week and get all of that trust back. You can't miss a day for the rest of the year. That's not how trust works, right? And so when I think about trust, I think of it in sort of three different categories. First is cash register trust, right? If I leave my wallet on the table and go to the restroom, are you going to steal it? Right. So like if we don't have cash register trust, which is essentially telling the truth, right? My product does X. Is my product actually, you know, vegan, GMO free? Is it, organic, whatever it is? Like, am I telling you the truth? Right? If we don't have honesty, right, or cash register trust, that's our foundation, right? So if that's missing, then we have zero relationship, right? Now, if we do have cash register trust, we can move on to what I call competency trust, right? And so competency trust is, can this person essentially do the job? Right? If I hired someone, can they do the job I actually hired them to do? Will this product fulfill its claim? It claims to do X. Do I believe it can actually do what it says it's going to do? Right. So that's the competency piece. And then the last piece is what I call confidence trust or accountability and reliability. So there's a lot of things that hey, maybe this is a great product. They make good claims. It actually does what it says it's going to do, but it's out of stock. I don't know where to find it, or I can't rely on it to actually be there, right? And I think you have this in a lot of employment situations where it's like, hey, I have this great person. They're certainly capable of doing the job I hired them for, but they don't show up to work or they leave early or there's always, a problem. And so thinking about trust in this way, right, is going to help us, with our client relationships and getting more new clients and getting more client retention. And in the CPG space, obtaining new customers is critically important because we never know when those new customers, are going to be repeat customers, right? Or essentially produce a high long-term value for our brand. So we're going to talk a little bit about this concept I refer to as the relationship ladder. So the relationship ladder has three different sort of rungs or three different phases of the relationship ladder. And the first is trust. And every interaction that we have with a client, right, or that a customer has with our brand, whether it's consuming it for the first time, holding the packaging, opening the product, where they're shopping to get the product, if it was received on time, the email correspondence or the customer service that we have, our website and our customer engagement programs. All of these things are micro experiences that either move our relationship with a customer up or down this loyalty ladder, this relationship ladder. And this happens with all really. You have a good experience with a friend, you take a couple steps up the relationship ladder, right? And so our goal is to get as many customers as possible to this advocacy threshold, right? And if we can turn our customers into advocates, essentially they become raving fans, right? That defend our brand and, share it with as many people as possible. So, as I mentioned before, trust is the currency of relationships. And so the trust threshold is essentially the point in time where a customer says, "Hey, I'm willing to take out my wallet and purchase your product. Like I'm willing to give this a shot. Like we can go on a date, have a drink, take a walk, have some ice cream. Hey, see what happens, right? Like this is sort of the beginning stage of the relationship. If that goes well, right, we begin to move on this journey of building advocates from trust to loyalty to advocacy. So, when we think about trust, it's sort of our first impression. And we only get one chance, right, to make a first impression. So when you logged onto the webinar, right, and you saw my face, all of you did one of these three things. It was either ugh, ma, or wow. If it was ugh, please don't tell me because I don't need to know that. But like, whenever we have a first impression, it's going to land in one of these categories. So our goal with the brand, right, is that when we're showcasing our brand and our product to our customer for the first time, we want to deliver this wow experience, right? We want to make sure that they have a great first impression because people make choices not necessarily based on the facts or the logic but based on how they feel, right? And relationships, and this is what we're trying to do, create a customer relationship. It's based on how someone feels about the product, how the product makes them feel, how being a representative of your brand makes them feel. So once we move beyond trust, right, we can get to this loyalty stage. If we have a great first impression, things are going well, they're willing to try us again. If we can continue, right, like I said, we're doing drops, right? It's earned in drops and lost in buckets. If we continue to put drops in the bucket every day, every experience, right, every micro experience is good, we can get into this sort of loyalty threshold, right, where this is my brand, what my brand of cracker, shampoo, soft drink, whatever it is. This is my brand until something happens, or essentially what I like to call you're now going steady, or you're in an exclusive relationship. Now, the challenge with this is that loyal customers leave, right? Particularly if there's a service disruption, right? So things can be going well for a really long time, but if there's some sort of service disruption, some sort of break in the trust, maybe a product's out of stock or they get a bag that's crushed, right? Things of that nature. They can leave, or they don't get their order on time, and it was really important that they had it, right? So loyal customers leave. So we can't take loyalty for granted, right? We need to keep investing, keep leaning in, right? And with all of our engagement and micro experiences so that we can move them beyond loyalty, to the advocacy threshold. Now, the way we do this, um, and when we get there, right, once we get to this advocacy threshold, these are the people that um, defend our brand. When we make a service disruption or have a service disruption, which is going to be inevitable, right? These are the people that come to our aid and say, "Hey, I know they made a mistake here, but this is what this brand is really like." One of the best examples of this is if you think about, the diehard Apple shoppers, right? Every September, there's a new phone that comes out. So I know 2 months from now, there are going to be people that camp outside the Apple store for 5 days in a tent so that they can be first in line to buy the product. Where if they just waited 2 weeks, they could just walk into the store and get it in 15 minutes. But they don't want to do that, so they're willing to camp outside. These are the advocates. These are the raving fans. These are the people that that when you launch a new flavor or a new product, they want to be the first to try it, right? They want to be the first to tell people about it. These are going to be the people that these are going to be the people that help you grow your business, and it doesn't cost you any money for their support. Now, I want to kind of go through this concept of dimensions of competition. So, um, if you go to business school, right, they're going to talk to you about these sort of three dimensions of competition. They're going to talk about price, quality, and speed. And the old adage is you can get two of these, but you can't get three, right? So it can be fast and cheap, but it's not going to be high quality, right? It can be high quality and affordable, but it's not going to be fast, right? And so, this is the adage. Now, living in an e-commerce age, right? It's more and more difficult to compete with the traditional dimensions of competition because everyone can see price online, in a minute. Like there was a time you used to have to walk to 10 different car dealerships, right, before you could find out the price of the car. Now you can look at cars online, you can see what the price is, right? There's a lot of price transparency. Speed, unfortunately, has become table stakes. Everybody wants everything yesterday, right? They want their 1 day delivery. Like if you're not fast, then you're going to lose customers. And on the quality side, we now have this sort of rating and review system online where people are leaving feedback. And if things are not good, they're going to share that feedback, 1-star review, right? And then you have to sort of dig yourself out of that hole. So if we expand this sort of traditional thought methodology into what I call this sort of fourth dimension of competition, which is experience, right? And if we're able to press on experience, then we can move our customers up the loyalty ladder faster. So, I mean, experience is really the differentiator with the most transformative and disruptive power. And this comes from anywhere from first impression, right, to the packaging, to what it feels like to open the packaging, to have the product, how easy is it to order, right, the product, like how convenient it is for me to get the product. And thinking about this in more of a service oriented manner, I think is really, really, helpful. Using an example, that I think resonates well, but isn't necessarily CPG, right? If you were renting a car, right, and you went to the desk, you got your car, and when you got into the rental, right, there was phone charges for whatever kind of phone you might need, because you were probably on a plane for a number of hours and your phone's probably getting close to dead, right? So there's a phone charger for you. Maybe there's a bottle of water because you're probably thirsty. Maybe there's a $5 gift card taped to the steering wheel from Starbucks that says, "Hey, your coffee's on us today," right? Thinking about these little things, these little tiny micro experiences, make somebody say like, "Wow." Just that little bit of extra thoughtfulness really changes, the way that, we think about a brand and want to engage and move, with that brand. Now, there's four laws of loyalty, right, that I want to go through that can help, essentially transition from, the loyal customer phase to the brand advocate or raving fan. And those are trust over time, effort reduction, handling service disruptions, and human touch. And I'll go through and give a couple examples of each of these. So, thinking about trust over time, Chewy is a great example of this. So, one of the practices at Chewy is that customer service, a human picks up the phone in less than 6 seconds, right? And this happens every time. I had to call my doctor yesterday, and it was like, I mean, it was like 5 or 6 minutes before I actually got to a human, right? After going through all the prompts, like, and waiting. And so thinking about, this type of customer service practice where someone knows, hey, if I call Chewy, I'm going to get a person. I'm going to get a person immediately, right? And I'm going to get my situation handled. This is the type of thing that really strengthens the brand customer relationship and builds trust over time. Effort reduction. Netflix is an example of this, right? How many times have we been there, sitting on the couch saying, like, what am I gonna watch? And like scrolling and scrolling through, list after list of possible things. So when you get an app, and Netflix isn't the only one that does this, but when someone is able to essentially, curate a personalized list for you and say, like, I love dubbed Asian fighting films. That's one of my guilty pleasures, right? You may not have this on your Netflix queue, but I have an entire queue of just these dubbed fighting films. And so, because I mean, it's a personal recommendation, and that's what I like. And so, what this does is it minimizes my time and effort, and it stops essentially, the minutes or 30 minutes of scrolling before I actually get to see something, right? And so anything that reduces customer effort, right? Customers are lazy. One of the things that Amazon does so well, right, is, they make it easy for people to spend money, right? Your address is already there, right? Your credit card's already there. You already have a profile. It's much easier to hit the buy button on Amazon, right, than it is to hit the buy button on, say, a direct to consumer website for the first time because they've removed essentially they've done a ton of effort reduction. They have the A to Z guarantee, right? So that, if you're not happy and you want to return the product, they just let you return it and refund your money, no questions asked. So thinking about how you can deploy customer effort reduction in your business is going to help move people up that loyalty ladder. Now, handling service disruptions. Service disruptions are the relationship killer, right? Service disruptions are the number one reason why a customer will leave you and not come back or complain or write a negative review. Service disruptions are also your biggest opportunity to become a hero and completely shift the narrative and move them into the advocacy stage. So like service disruptions are inevitable. We all make mistakes. No business is perfect. These are inevitably going to happen. But when they happen, how we respond to them and how we handle them is going to be the determining factor whether we keep and grow a customer relationship or we lose a customer relationship. So Starbucks, as an example, right? When a location, is closed, right, or out of product for a particular reason, they send push notifications or it's in the app. And you try to go order ahead from that store to let you know, hey, this store is unfortunately closed today, or it's closing early, or we don't actually have the ability to make the thing that you want to make because we're just out of caramel today, right? And so these types of things, help save you and then redirect you to where you could go, right, to get the thing that you want. So you can have a service disruption, but if you deal with it appropriately, right, your customer will be happy and want to continue to work with you. And then finally, human touch. Um, we're living in a world where because of the technology we have, there's less and less of this human touch. Zappos is a great example of putting handwritten notes, in packaging, or actually calling customers up on the phone and not giving them a recorded line or a digital survey, but like a human that asks them, "Hey, how did things go? Like, were you happy with your order?" Right now, I know a lot of these things, human touch is the most expensive, right? And it's the most time consuming, but it can make an incredibly significant impact. Um, I was having dinner with a friend last week, and we were talking about this concept, just in terms of, when I was younger, um, I used to have to pick up the phone to order a pizza. I'd have to call the pizza joint. Somebody would be on the other end of the phone. I'd have to tell them I wanted a large pepperoni with double cheese. Like I'd have to talk to a human. Now, we're living in a world we can, where every pizza joint has an app. You can just place your order without talking to somebody. You can DoorDash. You can Uber or Lyft. You don't need to hail a cab or talk to somebody about getting a ride somewhere. So like we're our technology, while it's making things more efficient, it is essentially removing the necessity for human touch, right, in a lot of our business interactions. And so if you can think of a way to put this back in to your, your customer interaction system, in a positive way, it will pay long-term dividends. So, and again, these are the things. If you think about these four laws of loyalty, and you're able to integrate them into your business, right? All of these things are going to be essentially the micro experiences that either move you up or down, right? The loyalty ladder, right? And if you're able to build advocates, right, you're going to have a really strong business, with repeat customers, that are raving fans who want to tell all their friends about you. And there's nothing else better you could do, for the growth of your business. Now, shifting gears a little bit, I want to talk about Amazon specifically. So, um, Amazon is not your friend. That is a tagline that I use, even as a former Amazonian. Now, one of the reasons that Amazon is not your friend is because their their mission is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. So they do a really good job, advocating for the end shopper or the end customer. For us, right, as CPG brands, right, as an actual brand who's trying to sell on Amazon, like unfortunately, they don't see us as a relationship, right? Or they don't treat our relationship the same as they treat the customer relationship. So, oftentimes as brands, we struggle with, profitability on Amazon because of increasing fees, right? We have rogue seller disruption. Somebody else got a bunch of our product and now it's driving our price down. They might suppress our buy box because we just did a deal with another brick and mortar company and now they're, not allowing us, to sell our product at the price we want to sell at. There's a huge lack in data visibility for sellers. Shipping requirements continue to change on how you need to package your product or how much it's going to cost. Advertising is now table stakes, where it used to be optional. Now it's, really just another fee we have to incur in the business in order to grow. And if you are currently selling on Amazon and you've ever had to call customer support, you'll understand that you're not getting the experience that Chewy is giving you. They're not answering in 6 seconds, and you're not getting the helpfulness that I think would be um, ideal. So um, now that being said about Amazon, what happens is a lot of people get in this place where they think, okay, if I just buy this technology solution or work with this particular agency, right? Like this is going to be the silver bullet that solves all my problems. And I think anything in life, right, that's worth doing well, right? There is no silver bullet solution. Right. And so this myth that there's this one thing or the magic pill that's going to solve all problems is simply not true. So the way I like to think of this, instead of a silver bullet, it's really like 100 golden BBs, right? I think for all things, if you do a number of things correctly and consistently, then you'll have success and you'll see your brand grow. So a couple of things we need to get right all the time. When we're thinking about Amazon, or even e-commerce, right? How can we increase our selection? Right? How do we get more buy buttons in the ether so we have more opportunities for somebody to click and say yes? Managing a clean distribution channel is critically important, right? This is going to prevent, what I call profitability free fall or death spiral that I'll talk about a little bit later. Um, don't go out of stock and don't go out of stock. Going out of stock is the death nail for the business. Make sure that your product listings, are perfect. Think about how you would present yourself, right? If you were going on a job interview, right? Or a first date, right? This is how you want your listings to look because you're making a first impression and you only get one chance to make a first impression. We need to think about driving external traffic and really focus on getting reviews, right? Getting more people to comment in positive ways about our brand and our products. If we do these things, this is going to set the core foundation for having success online. Now, there's a number of other things we have to do: brand registry, set up an Amazon store, check our account health. What are we A/B testing? There's a lot of moving parts to being successful, and that's why I call it the 100 golden BBs. So now our golden BBs play into this concept I refer to as the golden formula. And the golden formula is simply traffic times conversion times our average order value. So if we execute these BBs correctly, right, what we're going to do is we want to be able to increase traffic or the number of people that are viewing our products. If they never see our product, then they're never going to get a chance to buy it, experience it, engage with the brand. So we have to get people first to see it, right? Then once they see it, we want to make sure they have all the information they need to make a buying decision, and we're also presenting ourselves in a way where we're compelling them to do so. After that, we want to make sure that we're able to sell at, the price that we want to, so that we're not having downward price pressure because of other sellers or other distribution channels. We want to sell at the price that we've desired to sell. Ideally, if we have multiple products, we'd like to get them to increase their cart size and try multiple products at once. So if we think about all the things we have to do, they kind of fall into this formula. And if we can execute on them correctly, we can improve traffic, improve conversion, improve our cart size, which essentially makes more money for the business. And we know revenue is like oxygen for the business, which we then get to reinvest and continue to grow the brand. Now, all of these things play into this concept of the digital shelf. So when we think about the digital shelf, it's very similar to a brick and mortar shelf. It just happens to be online. Right now, availability is key. 26% of shoppers switch brands permanently when a product is unavailable. If we were on a digital shelf, or if we were in a brick and mortar store and we were looking to shop for something and the product was gone, there would simply just be a blank space. But in the digital shelf, if you're selling on Amazon or elsewhere, they're just going to backfill that empty space with the next item, right? With you, essentially with one of your competitors. And so being in stock is incredibly important. Making sure, that you're paying attention to the competitive set that you are, showing up with for any given search, and remembering that the shelf can change from moment to moment. It's not like a retail shelf where it's going to be stagnant for weeks and months with the same products, right? The shelf can change as search patterns change and language patterns change and people go in and out of stock, and also geographic factors. So thinking about this in a little bit more detail, in a physical store, you have distribution and stock levels, similarly with e-commerce. So like I've been really hitting the point of being available, right? Then you want to be findable. So not only does the product exist, but it needs to show up when people search for it for as many searches as possible. Then we have to have brand appeal, right? So where you might have packaging or display in a brick and mortar store, you're going to have your product detail page and your content and your quality, your images and your language that is essentially going to need to produce the brand appeal to get them to move forward. Value proposition. Are we priced competitively? Are we doing the right promotions at the right time? And then trust, right? In a brick and mortar store, you might have a salesperson that suggests a particular brand, right? Online, you need to count on ratings and reviews, which is essentially why I spent so much time talking about the relationship ladder and trying to build raving fans. These are the things that are really going to drive home the next incremental sale or getting you that next new customer that can work with you long term. I want to go a little bit into brand protection. So we want to make sure that our products are compliant. There's some words that we can't say, right, on Amazon, right? We want to make sure that we're avoiding, making claims or saying words that Amazon doesn't like, or else they're going to hide your product from people, and that decreases your visibility. We also want to make sure our distribution channel is really, really clean so that we protect ourselves, from rogue sellers and people, essentially driving price down over time. I'm going to skip through this. What happens in this scenario, right, is that you start having a lot of success in the marketplace, right? And then what happens is you get a bunch of other third-party sellers that are buying your product elsewhere, and then they flock to the marketplace too. The competition of all these sellers, because they all have units of your product, right, starts driving prices down. So now you're selling for less. And then what happens is you start losing on Amazon what's called the buy box, or your ability to sell your own product. Then your brick and mortar stores start calling you and saying, "Hey, you told me I was going to sell the product for X, and now I see it online for a lot less money. Fix this, or I'm not buying from you anymore." So then when it doesn't get fixed, then retail needs to lower their price, and then they're not buying from you, right? And then that causes further downward pressure on the e-commerce marketplaces, and then everybody's just operating in a much less profitable way. So having, a single distribution partner, like this is a place where, monogamy really helps you win, right? Like having a single distribution partner that you can trust, that having an authorized reseller policy, having MAP and MSRP pricing that you ask all of your partners to adhere to is going to be something, that helps you maintain your margins in the long run. Um, Amazon is difficult. This year, there's a number of new fees. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I'd be happy to chat with anybody who is struggling with this. Where they're increasing the return fees. They have a new fee that they've created. Amazon used to just charge you if you sent them too much stock and it stayed there for too long, which is natural because you're using their warehouse and they're like, all right, you're taking up a lot of space. I got to charge you for this. Now, if you don't send in enough inventory, they're going to charge you for sending in too little. So essentially, they're kind of embedding the story of Goldilocks here, where your inventory levels have to be just right, or else they're going to charge you a lot of money. So getting that right is a really delicate process that we've refined over time with our proprietary technology. And, we can help you, do that if this is something that you're struggling with. We do continuous inventory monitoring. We do packaging prep. We do handle all the logistics and transportation. This is something that we are experts at, that we've done now for almost 2 decades. So, advertising. I'm coming up on time, so I'm not going to go through this as deeply as I would have liked to. But essentially, when we're thinking about advertising on Amazon, before you get started, there's four things you really want to make sure that you have in place. You want to be retail ready, right? Make sure your listings look like you would if you're going to a job interview. You want to be winning what they call the buy box so that someone can actually buy your offers. We want to make sure that there's enough inventory on hand that if we begin to advertise and sell more, we're not going to accelerate a stock out, right? We want to make sure we have enough inventory to do that. And then reviews. The more reviews, the better. But and with this, we can run into a bit of a chicken and egg scenario for you, especially if you're new. It's like, well, how do I get reviews if nobody's seen me? You may have to invest. But the more reviews that you do have, the higher your conversion rate's going to be and the better your advertising performance is going to be. Thinking about your brand, in different stages, every brand and every product exists in what I call a life cycle. Excuse me. And there's a launch phase, a growth phase, and then a profit phase. In the launch phase, right, if you think about a rocket ship, right, a rocket uses, 80% of its fuel or 90% of its fuel just to get off the ground, get into Earth's orbit, right? It's reach what they call escape velocity. Once it's in orbit, right, it doesn't need a lot of fuel to go thousands and thousands of miles, but it takes a lot to get there, right? And so when you're in the launch phase, getting exposure and letting people know who you are, right, is really where, those marketing dollars are going. So thinking about the metrics that you want to prioritize, right? It's going to be different in your launch phase than it is in your profitability phase. There's a number of different ad levers you can use on Amazon. I'm happy to go into detail again about all of these. They show up in a variety of different places within search. I think it's important to really have a comprehensive strategy when you're thinking about, how to launch and what's the best path forward for doing advertising on Amazon, and we can help you figure out what that right budget is and how to execute that properly. I think it's important to use more of a stair step method so that you're sort of squeezing all the juice out of one fruit before moving on to the next. And then really thinking about your entire marketing funnel and, how to address customers at each stage of the marketing funnel and continue to move them down so that you get, continuous new customers and then repeat purchases. Um, One thing to be careful of is that when you're advertising, I think there's a lot of tailwinds that people don't think about, whether it's customer lifetime value, repeat purchases, increasing organic rank, garnering additional reviews. There's a lot of positives that can help, your ROI that aren't necessarily included in your ROI. Now, when you're doing branded advertising, essentially advertising on your own brand name, most people, most businesses are not, of a size where there's a lot of this that's necessary. So what happens is you get a lot of false positives, and up to 86% of branded ad revenue, right, is cannibalistic. So essentially sales that would have happened anyway had you not done that advertising. So thinking about where you're spending your money and how you're spending your money is really important to make sure it's not being essentially wasted, and we want to reallocate dollars to make sure they're in the best place. Um, I'm gonna just go through really quickly, some of our capabilities. We do all of the reporting. Where Amazon can be a bit of a black box, we have a bunch of custom technology and dashboards that let you see all of your analytics in real time, which it gives a lot of transparency to the business. We have an expert team and dedicated reps that work with you. We handle all the inventory and logistics, brand protection, compliance. If you're interested in global marketplace or omni-channel, distribution, we can have that conversation. We handle all of the Amazon headaches, all of the case management. We help improve your listing quality and do all of the marketing and ad optimization. So our technology is specifically designed for Amazon to give you the insights you need to get more customers, more new customers, more repeat customers. And we work in two different ways. Like I said, Amazon is not your friend. If you would like to be friends with us, we have two different ways of working together. The first is our full service distribution model, where we essentially buy your product from you. You pay us $0, no money ever. We buy your product from you in full truckloads, and we essentially handle your Amazon business on your behalf. We do everything that I mentioned above. If that is something, right, that you don't have the appetite for, don't quite qualify for because of size, we also operate in an agency capacity where we do all of the same things we would on the distribution model, but instead of buying and taking ownership of your inventory, you retain control of that. We'll work through your selling account, and you'd pay us a monthly management fee for doing so. So we can be your trusted co-pilot, essentially overseeing your Amazon business, for a management fee. Or if you'd really like to scale, right, we can, send a purchase order for your product, and then, you would essentially work with us as you would any other retailer. So that is essentially how Luminize, helps clients. I know I went over a ton of stuff today, but I will break, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Tony, thank you so much. You are clearly so knowledgeable about this entire space. We have a couple questions in the chat already. So I will go ahead and read those to you. And then if you're sitting here waiting, either go ahead and put your question in the chat or just wait till a break and you can speak up. So the first question is, so maybe you're going to get to this, but is the trust barrier correlated to the price of an item?
Of course, of course, right? And so, this is an interesting one of our I know Sid's on here today. We have another co-founder named Zach who's part of our business, and he quick story, he was messaging me last night about other people that work in our space, and there's other people that work in our space that charge a lot less money, right, than we do. And we were talking about one in particular, and the entry point was very low, right? And the conversation was, well, of course it is going to the lower your price, the less trust you need to move forward, because you are not, you're not staking as much, right? You're not staking, like, it's the same thing, like going out for ice cream with somebody on a first date doesn't have really high stakes. Introducing someone to your friends and family does, right? Particularly if it doesn't work out. And so if you have, a lower priced product, you don't have to establish as much trust than you do if you have a higher priced product. And obviously, higher the price, the more difficult the sale. One of the questions that I like to ask customers, is at what price point do you begin to question the quality, right, of the service or the item, right? And so one thing to think about, especially if you're competing against someone who has a much lower price than you, is like at what price point do you begin to question the quality of that product? And really, I think on a trust basis, communicate your unique value proposition. Let's say you're selling supplements as an example, and your ingredients are just simply cleaner or more potent, right? We have to find a way to, whether with text or SEO or video, we have to find a way to communicate that to justify an increased price point. And now that can certainly be done, but and we can, and you can use third party, they think, but essentially, yeah, the short answer to your question is you need less trust at a lower price. But I think keeping in mind when someone does have a lower price, having customers question the quality of that, and then making sure you're showcasing, why your price might be higher as is really important. And that's going to help you gain more trust by essentially demonstrating your value proposition.
Thank you. So the next question is, in your opinion, should brands solicit seller feedback or product reviews for established listings, anywhere from 300 to 1,500 reviews, to increase search rankings?
Yeah, always. I would never stop soliciting reviews. You have to do it in a compliant terms of service way, but yes, you always ask for the referral, you always ask for the review. And even if you had 100,000 reviews, or I would you always, I would just have that as a best practice for all of your listings throughout your longevity in your business.
Just always keep it going.
Yes.
Um, all right, next question. So what is your opinion of the Amazon Transparency Program?
Um, I would like more details. I would like more. I mean, the transparency program, I think is good, right? It's to make sure that other people, right, are not selling fraudulent product, right? It's to make sure that other people are not selling product that is fake or not real, right? And this happens all the time, right? There are people that attached to your listings, they set up an account and they ship empty boxes to people, right? And then you get dinged for this, right? And so transparency certainly does what it claims to do. If you have, but I'm happy to peel the onion on that if there's more detail there.
Sarah had a second question, so I'll let her chime in, but while you answer this one. So I've heard a stat that something like 80% of purchases begin on Amazon, even if they don't end there. In other words, should we think about Amazon as an advertising vehicle? In your opinion, is that true?
100%. I've heard it's closer to 90%, right? So, when someone is searching, what's like what's the fanciest castle in Europe, right? They're going to go to Google and type that kind of thing. When somebody's looking for what's the best baby formula or protein shake, right? They're going to when it's product centered, people go to Amazon first, right? And when someone's in a store, someone may be in a store staring at your product on a shelf. They are pulling up Amazon, right, to do a price comparison to see is it priced the same, but also to read the reviews, right? Particularly if you're a consumable. I was actually looking for meal replacement shakes a couple weeks ago, and I had like five that I had in mind. And I went to the store, I looked all these up on Amazon, I was reading reviews. Now I'm weird. I actually ended up buying all five and tasting them all to see which one I liked the most. But um, this is a common practice by shoppers. They're price checking and they're reading reviews, and many times they are going to Amazon first. And so this is a place where even if you're not selling on Amazon or you're not even if Amazon is not a primary revenue channel for you, that's okay. Having a thoughtful presence and representing your brand professionally and well on Amazon is going to be important to help the velocity in your other distribution channels.
No, that makes total sense. And as a consumer, I do that. I think everybody does that. Um, so I had to Google this acronym, Carrie. You're up next. So what is the total advertising cost of sales on Amazon for food brands? Typical.
So when you think about so the acronym here it's called TACOS,
Yeah.
right? Our total advertising cost of sale. Now when you essentially you're asking me what I don't know what the category is. That's something I'd have to look up. We have different Amazon relationships, and I can get the average category tacos for a food brand. My guess, if I had to guess, it's somewhere in the teens, somewhere between 10 and 20%. When you think about the concept of tacos, essentially what you're doing is you all this is measuring is what percentage of your total revenue are you reinvesting back into marketing? That's essentially what all tacos is meant. So no matter what the number is, whether it's 2% or 20%, it's just saying, hey, you made X amount of dollars and you put this percentage back into marketing on Amazon. That's going to be a business decision based on margins, based on the life cycle of what stage of the life cycle that your brand is in, um, and total revenue, right? So like if you get to a place where you're doing you know, 2, 3, 4 million dollars a month, right? And you're gonna have a much lower your need to have a higher tacos, like because it's just simply a percentage of your revenue may not be as high. Versus if you're launching, right, you may see a number like 25 or 30, right? If you are in the launch phase of your brand. So I can do a follow-up and get Kirsten the average for that question. But I think thinking about the concept of tacos and what you, where you are in your life cycle of your brand and what you're specifically trying to accomplish is going to help us to try and determine what the right percentage would be for any individual specific brand.
And then the next question, do you work with frozen products or only shelf stable?
Currently, we don't work with anything frozen.
And then what tactics can be used to mitigate 3PS in addition to MAP policy? Buy box is an issue if there's distribution on KHE or UNFI.
Correct. And so typically what's happening with KHE or UNFI, right, is they are either taking product under another name or they're selling it to someone else, right, who then sells your product on Amazon. So having an established MAP policy is very good. Um, Creating an authorized reseller policy is also a good idea because then you can say this particular person or this particular group of people are now authorized to sell my product. You have a relationship with them. You've discussed the terms of that relationship. If someone is selling out, if someone is not included, as an authorized reseller, now you can take action to have them stop selling your product.
And the last question in the chat. So if you guys have more questions, keep them coming. I booked Tony's calendar till 11:15, so I had a feeling we might run a little bit over. So the last question in the chat. What are the brand requirements to working on the distribution model versus the agency model?
Yeah, so the on the distribution model, we want to make economies of scale. So, our typical minimum, is we want to be with someone who's selling at least about 50,000 a month, to try and make that work. Because we want to make sure that we're able to buy enough, buy full truckloads of product, right, on a regular basis so that we can, keep the shipping costs minimal. I think the biggest decision is really comes down to, you know, like a personal choice, for the business. Most folks that we work with are just tired of the headaches. So they're like, will you just buy my stuff for me? I'll ship you pallets of it, and I don't want to have to think about any of these headaches again. So I don't want to have to call Amazon. I don't want to have to deal with my ads. I don't want to worry about my listings. Just do this for me, please. And so essentially we send them a check every month, and that's what happens. And so, I think the big thing is, making pricing work. Unfortunately, there's sometimes like it doesn't work. Like, let's say a product is frozen, right? That's something we don't have the capability of moving, right? And so, if a product is frozen, if for some reason something is, say, heavy, bulky, right? It's just something that is the shipping costs prevent us from being able to buy it at a reasonable rate, right? And then we start looking at the agency side and saying, hey, we can still give you all the same support. We're just not able to ship it for you. So we'll give you all the same support. We're just gonna do that through your Amazon account. We'll still run it for you. We just aren't going to be able to do the distribution model. And so we typically use the distribution model as sort of a backup, for people who have extenuating circumstances where it doesn't make financial sense for either of us to move forward in the distribution model.
Another question came through. Do you have any use cases of brand gating with Amazon?
Yes, yes. So the short answer is yes. Yeah, I think that, and we can talk about like where this happens. I mean, this happens naturally, in the jewelry space a lot. But depending on the category and the product, right, it may make sense to gate so that other people, can't sell. So we can go into the details of that, based on specifics. I'm happy. Like my email is here on the screen. You guys, please, you can also send me detailed questions. I'm happy to jump on the phone with anybody for 10 minutes and, either answer your question and get you what you need. If, for things like that, we have to go into more detail for.
Well, that was it for the questions. We are right at 11. Sarah chimed in. I think she just left, but Sarah had a bunch of questions. She said, thank you, Tony. That was super informative. So if anybody else has any other questions, like I said, we have Tony for a couple more minutes. You can either type them into the chat or take yourself off mute. We're right at time. So if you have another meeting, feel free to hop off. All right.
Well, I think I would just wrap up by saying I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you all for giving part of your morning to listen to me. When I think about this, like I said, Amazon's kind of a beast and it's not your friend. And I think we're all in this together, right? Like it's us against Amazon, it's us against the e-com world, and like we're all in this together to try and really grow, like healthy, high quality brands that can really help people. So I appreciate getting to be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tony. We so appreciate you and spending your morning with us and all you're clearly so knowledgeable about this whole space. So we love the Luminize team. So thank you all for joining.
Excellent. All right. Uh,
All right.
Everyone have a wonderful
Talk to
day.
you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.